to understand the new Toyota Supra, the one that is due in showrooms in the first half of next year. You don't so much have to understand the old Toyota Supra as you must grasp the next BMW Z4. The Supra, and I'm not talking about those earlier Celica Supras because, sorry owners, those don't count, but the A70 and A80 Supras, those built from 1986 to 1993 and from 1993 to 2002, those were front-engine, rear-drive cars that had all the fixings of a Japanese muscle car. Their powerful straight sixes, especially those from the last generation cars, were overbuilt to the point that tuners were getting over 1,000 horsepower out of them. One that I got a ride in years ago made 1,100 horsepower. If you ever went to one of those dyno competitions where builders compete for raw output and spectators stand a safe distance away in case everything suddenly goes kablooey, then you know what I'm talking about. They were muscle cars first and sports cars a close second. Interest in them had grown in recent times, perhaps encouraging Toyota to make another one. But development of an all-new, small-volume semi-supercar is expensive, and even with a booming economy and lots of people with lots of disposable income, it was prohibitive. Luckily, on the other side of the world, BMW was thinking the same thing, not about making a muscle car or a supercar but a successor to the Z4 Cabriolet. How fortuitous. So the two companies got together, co-developing, as the official wording goes, the basic platform and drivetrain before splitting off in the last 4 years to their respective sides of the planet to fine-tune the suspensions and bodies of what would become their own unique creations, Toyota's Supra Coupe and BMW's Z4 Cabriolet. As of right this minute, I can't tell you much about the BMW Z4, but I can tell you something about the new Supra. I was lucky enough to get to drive one around the road course on the infield of Texas Motor Speedway yesterday, a crankshafts throw away from Toyota's new U.S. headquarters in nearby Plano. I was further lucky enough to be driving the first U.S. spec version of the car. Earlier drives you may have seen were in European spec cars on the European track in, that's right, Europe. This would not only be an American car on an American track but a U.S. spec car in Texas, by God. Granted, the difference in performance between Europe and the US Supras will not be that much. The Euro cars have an extra particulate filter thingy in their exhaust systems that we in America will not have to deal with. Specific info on this was limited, but we do know that the lack of this filter on US cars frees up the exhaust enough that we may get a slight boost in horsepower over them. So we should consider ourselves lucky, even if it's only a few HP lucky. Likewise, the information that Toyota has officially revealed is still scant, which is understandable considering the new car won't be here till sometime in the first half of 2019. We know the engine will be a 3.0-liter straight-six with a single, twin-scroll turbocharger making more than 300 HP. The car's 0-60 time will be under 5 seconds. The configuration will be front-engine rear drive and the weight balance will be 50-50. A few other things Toyota has released. The suspension will include adaptive variable dampers as standard equipment. A button on the center console will switch the setup between normal and sport modes. The damping force is optimized at each wheel according to road conditions and driver inputs, and operation has no negative impact on the car's ride and handling quality. Hitting the sport button will make throttle response more direct and aggressive, the automatic transmission will shift faster, the adaptive suspension will tighten up, the electric power steering will be faster, and the active differential will be optimized for traction and cornering balance. Yes, there is an electronically actuated active differential. It can send as much as 100% of torque to either rear wheel if this rear-wheel drive car is needed for exiting corners with maximum grip. But it is a two-way diff, so it also unwinds appropriately going into corners to maintain stability on deceleration. The steel and aluminum body is designed to be as taut as possible, with rigidity Toyota says exceeds that of the carbon fiber Lexus LFA. Tires are Super Sporty Michelin Pilot Super Sports, 255/40R19 front and 275/35R19 rear. So you'll be getting good grip. Brakes are 4-pot Brembos, and even the brake booster is optimized. On the Toyota side, the new Supra is a product of Gazoo Racing in Japan, the same group that won Le Mans most recently. Chief engineer on the Supra was no less than Tetsuda Tada, who was also chief engineer of the Toyota 86, much beloved by sports car drivers on a budget. That alone should be reassuring to sporty car aspirers. But now, as Tatsuda-san said, numbers are one thing, feelings are another. Toyota Supra badge is widely known among performance car enthusiasts. Toyota built 4 generations of the model from 1979 to 2002, and gained a strong following, but the company has largely withdrawn from sports cars since. Which brings us back to the infield road course at Texas Motor Speedway. I'd get 20 laps in 2 10-lap increments in the parts department's Supra. This far out from production, these things are far from ubiquitous, so the generosity of the parts department must be acknowledged. Thank you, parts department. Like the cars from the European drive earlier, this one was a very early prototype. That meant I couldn't look at the unfinished and camouflaged interior, which was still largely unassembled anyway. The outside of my car had black and white camouflage, but I was forbidden to photograph this car. So the shots you see here are of the European cars, which, apart from the exhaust and maybe some side marker lights, are pretty much the same. My driving coach would be no less a driving hero than Craig Stanton, who has won in everything from dirt bikes to LMP1 prototypes to Porsche GTEs to various Baja racers. My first Supra laps were in the passenger seat as Stanton walloped the car around the road course to make sure everything was still on the car. Earlier in the day, he'd done several miles on the track to bed in the new brakes. This particular car had 0 miles on the odometer the morning of my drive. By the time Stanton was taking those warm-up laps, the odometer read maybe 20. From the passenger seat, you can really feel the quick acceleration. The official 0-60 of under 5 seconds could also mean close to 4 seconds for all I knew. Sure felt possible. Likewise, the car cornered flatter than I was expecting. Chief Engineer Tada-san said the team developed the car using what he calls the golden ratio. No, that is not a drinking game. It is the ratio between the wheelbase, track and the height of the car's center of gravity. The Supra has a wider track, relatively shorter wheelbase and a lower center of gravity than, say, the 86, or any number of other sports cars Tada listed. Thus, when I got behind the wheel, I could immediately sense that this was a different kind of sports car, even though my first 10 laps were in normal mode and were perhaps less impressive from a handling point of view than I was prepared for. The suspension was not as taut as I'd been expecting. The shifts were slower too, even though I was using the paddle shifters to go between second, third and fourth, as the short, tight track required. 10 laps down we pulled into the pits and Stanton had the team reduce tire pressures from 41 to 39 all around, the idea being to get a better contact patch at each corner. Then he reached over from the passenger seat, hit the sport button and we went back out. Instant sports car. Right away the steering felt alive, the revs were higher and the suspension was far more responsive. This is the button you want to use for spirited driving. In faster corners, the active diff not only eliminated any wheel spin exiting corners, even the 150-degree squeaker on the north end of the track, and likewise eliminated rear-end wandering coming into the corner. It even did this better than some supercars I've driven on racetracks, I dare say. The Supra felt like it turned quicker, rotated faster and got out of corners with more immediacy than any of the previous Supras, certainly, but it also stood apart from your generic, garden variety sports car. The setup indeed felt square, if that's even the term. Not like a long wheelbase sports car, or even a regular wheelbase sports car. This did not translate to instability in a straight line, but a unique feel not unlike, hey, a BMW Z4. While BMW has never, as far as I know, described a golden ratio for any previous Z4, that car's shorter than average wheelbase did give it a feel like the Supra. The difference with this new car, of course, was that this was not powered by a 1.9-liter four-cylinder, as a previous generation Z3 had been, but by this powerful 3.0-liter turbo straight-six. It was as if BMW and Toyota had created a really powerful go-kart. You've driven go-karts, imagine a larger one with about 4 times more power and torque. At least that's an initial impression from a very early prototype. Later drives will be even more sordid than this one. There'll also be much more information coming in the next months, including full specs, a drive of a production car and maybe even pricing. Right now, as far as pricing goes, there's a vague notion that it'll cost over $50,000. Where that fits into the sports car market is also something that has to be sorted out. Maybe the only competition will be the BMW Z4, its fraternal twin. In any case, this is not going to be like anything else on the market, except the Z4. And with the Supra's permanent, fixed roof adding more torsional rigidity, it might have that one beat. Let's see what we learn next.